What is going on, everybody? It is the Icebreaker here, back with another video. And for today's video, we're back talking some more hockey, some more NHL content coming your way. And continuing with the theme of me kind of calling myself out here for my early predictions entering this 2022-2023 season. For today's video, I'm going to be discussing a lot of teams that I did not have as much faith in as I probably should have. And in other words, teams that I've grossly underrated and underestimated and have quickly proven me wrong this season. I'd also like to mention all of these teams that will be featured in this video are teams that I predicted to initially miss the playoffs, so I'm going to make myself look like even more of a fool. But as always, if you enjoy the videos, be sure to hit a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. So just like I did in my previous video where I talked about NHL teams I overestimated, I'm doing the exact same thing here, giving you guys just a couple of honorable mentions that I felt had to be included in this video. Just a disclaimer, how I rank these teams were based on the difference between where I predicted them initially to start the season and where they currently rank as it stands. And also all the stats shown are updated as of January 6th before all the nightly games. So first off, let's talk about the Washington Capitals and how dominant they've been over this stretch of the last month. They have been undoubtedly one of the hottest teams in the NHL. And yes, as you can see on the screen, yes, I did not have as high as expectations as the way they are achieving so far this season. I had them ranked 17th in the NHL by season's end. I had them just missing the playoffs. And by the looks of that, that's probably not going to happen. Looks like they are clearly going to make the playoffs. They're currently occupying a top 3 spot in that Metropolitan Division, and for good reason. 8th in the league at the moment of the recording of this video, 50 points through their first 41 games. We're actually halfway through the season for the Washington Capitals at least. Their plus 22 differential also ranks top 10. Just everything about this team right now, steady, solid, and they are riding really high right now. Now, going into this season, we all knew the story about this team. You know, the injuries they had to start the season. They were to go without Nicklas Backstrom and Tom Wilson to start the year. Neither of them have yet to play this season, but so far they have played tremendously above pretty much everyone's expectations. Now, did most people think they could still make the playoffs? I think that's a realistic possibility. I think a lot of people still had some faith in them that they could be good enough to make a wild card spot just because of how the rest of the team looks. And you just look at the depth on this team, incredibly underrated. Honestly, this might be one of the deepest teams in the league. And, the depth stepping up is a huge reason why this Capitals team is legitimately a Stanley Cup contender as it stands. No Tom Wilson, no Nicklas Backstrom, no Connor Brown even, who I forgot to mention hasn't even really played this season. No problem for the Capitals. They got guys like Dylan Strome stepping up, 31 points through 41 games this season. Connor Sheary also having a very solid season. Decent secondary scoring from Anthony Mantha. And, guys like Garnet Hathaway and Nick Dow chipping in, a part of maybe one of the best fourth lines in the NHL, in my opinion. No John Carlson, who's missed quite a bit of time throughout the season. No problem for the Caps as well. Eric Gustafsson stepping in perfectly into that, that number one defenseman role at the moment. 23 points through 40 games currently. Over the last 10 games, he's racked up like 14 points. Just playing at another level, a guy that most people viewed as a third pair defenseman playing like a legit number one defenseman right now. But the biggest reason for me as to why the Capitals look like such a huge threat, a bigger threat than maybe most people want to lead on, is the solid goaltending they've had throughout the season. Look, they got rid of Ilya Samsonov and Vitek Vanacek in the offseason. Neither of them were giving them consistent, reliable enough goaltending throughout the course of the last couple of seasons. So they signed Darcy Kemper, had some injury issues, but over the course of the season so far, a very solid, respectable .916 save percentage. Charlie Lindgren as the backup, who had to step in as a starter in Kemper's absence, also playing really well. He was riding high on like one of those winning streaks, was playing excellent hockey between the pipes for them as it stands at .914 save percentage for him. Just the goaltending depth that they have as well. Very good team. Again, the depth, just incredibly underrated, something that I didn't anticipate, obviously, which is why they're on this list here. A team that I grossly underrated, and they're a legitimate Stanley Cup contender in my mind. This is probably... I've never been more convinced of the Capitals since the last time they won the Stanley Cup, truthfully. Just look at their team as a whole, especially with the goaltending, how solid it's been. This is a team that I think has a legitimate shot, and a team that a lot of people have to start paying a little bit more attention to, in my opinion. The other team I wanted to talk about, kind of more of a low-key honorable mention, because although they've had a really surprising start to the season, at least for me, I still don't necessarily think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to just fall short. But having said that, they've definitely exceeded pretty much everyone's expectations as well. Yes, I had them as like a bottom 10 team in the NHL. And although they currently just ranked 20th, which is about middle of the pack, the contributions that they've gotten from this team has been, nothing less of amazing, to be honest with you. Guys like Tage Thompson, who had a really good season last year, did not expect him to, necessarily replicate the season he had. Not saying that he wasn't capable of having, just as good of a season, but the step he took this season to being one of the absolute elite players, one of the best players in the league. Right now, he's playing like a top 10 player in the NHL, which is very awesome to see. An amazing turnaround for a career for him. A guy who was drafted late in the first round, didn't quite pan out with the St. Louis Blues. Even his first couple seasons with Buffalo, he was playing mainly on the fourth line, and to all of a sudden break out here, 55 points, 30 goals through his first 36 games. And Tage is obviously a huge reason why the Buffalo Sabres are the number one ranked offense in the NHL. The Buffalo Sabres, it's honestly crazy to see how great of an offensive team this team has been this season with all the scoring threats they have. I mean, obviously the top line has done most of the damage this season, of course. Alex Tuch's having himself a great season, over a point per game at 42 points in 36 games. And Jeff Skinner, coming off a really good season last year, a bounce back, if you will. Had a couple of rough seasons, obviously since signing that huge $9 million contract per season for 8 years. Last year, I believe he had 33 goals, 63 points, if memory serves. Yeah, he was in the low 60s, which is really solid. But this year, over a point per game, 39 points in 33 games. Obviously had that 3-game suspension, I believe. So those guys have been carrying the load offensively. Rasmus Dahlin has taken a step forward, finally, looking like a legitimate top 5 defenseman in the NHL with how big of a step he's taken offensively. And Dylan Cousins having a breakout season, not entirely surprised. I saw him in the World Juniors. He looked like he was going to be a future star in this league, and so far he has been with 35 points in 36 games so far. Now, we know what's holding this team back. It's clearly their goaltending hasn't been good enough. Eric Comrie's been a non-option. Even Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, despite the winning record, numbers would suggest he's not having the greatest season statistically. Craig Anderson, yes, he's over 40. He's actually given them some solid goaltending, but I find it hard to believe how they could rely on a guy who's over 40 to carry them to the playoffs. I just don't think if he plays a lot of the season, or they can just roll him the rest of the way, that his numbers, his production, his solid play is sustainable in my opinion. So definitely the goaltending is holding them back. It's a big reason why the Buffalo Sabres in all likelihood probably are not going to make the playoffs. But just looking at how great this team has been offensively, they're keeping them in games single-handedly, all these offensive guys. So yeah, overall, the numbers suggest where they are in the standings. Doesn't necessarily suggest that, they're an elite team by any means, but just the way they've been playing, they've been a pleasant surprise. They've been playing some great hockey lately. I just want to give them a shout out, but I don't think they're making the playoffs though. But good on Buffalo, finally taking a step forward in some ways and giving the fans some excitement moving forward. They got one of the brightest futures in the NHL, no doubt. All right, so let's get into the official top 5 rankings here. So coming in at 5th, at one of the teams that I underestimated the most this season, or entering this season, I guess it's the LA Kings for me, because, as most of you guys know who watched my preseason predictions, I didn't pick the Kings to make the playoffs. That was a pretty hot take. A lot of people did not agree with that whatsoever. They just thought the team was taking a step forward, and I guess I was on the fence about them. Now, so far, they are in a playoff spot, currently occupying the 2nd seed in the Pacific Division. And albeit the Pacific is kind of weak, but I can't argue with results. Like I said here, they are currently in a playoff spot. They played among the most games in the league, so who knows if teams will catch up to them. I'm still waiting for teams like the Oilers and Flames to get going, but as of right now, the Kings still occupy that playoff spot, the 9th best record in the NHL, where I had them sitting around middle of the pack. So kudos to them for having a solid start to the year. Now, having said that, I got to be honest, I still got to say, I'm not fully sold. I'm still not sold on this team right now. I know they are in a playoff spot, and a lot of people maybe think that I'm a Kings hater. I'm just disrespecting them, but I still don't view this team as that great of an NHL team, to be quite honest with you. You look at their differential, they're allowing more goals than they're scoring. And like I said, a lot of people were like, you know what, this team's taking a step forward. They're for real. Their offense hasn't made any significant improvements. Sure, they're averaging over 3 goals a game, but where do they rank? They're ranked 18th. Last year, they were, I believe, the 20th ranked offense or 19th ranked offense. Not really a significant improvement in terms of, where they rank across the league. And their goals against taking a massive step back. Despite last year, I believe they were top 10 in goals allowed. Jonathan Quick has not looked the same. He had a really decent year last year, but this season has kind of fallen off and fallen back down to what he has been producing more or less the last 4 or 5 years. Save percentage below 900, goals against well above 3. A slight bright spot. They brought in Phoenix Copley, and so far, the 9-2 record is kind of getting the Kings some more consistency throughout game to game, but still, that tough loss to Boston has kind of hurt his stats a little bit. Now he's only at a 901 save percentage, but he's given them some decent goaltending, all things considered. But apart from Kevin Fiala having himself a really good season, first year at the Kings, leading the team in scoring with 39 points over 42 games. Kopitar still doing his thing, producing fairly solidly. Victor Arvidsson close to a point per game. Has trouble staying healthy, but he's been for the most part pretty healthy and has been quite productive. Another guy that I seem to always forget about and underrate, but Victor Arvidsson is a very solid player, of course. And the Danaults, Velarde having a pretty solid breakout season. I know he was really hot to start the year, kind of cooled off a little bit over the last 20 games or so, but all things considered, 16 goals on the season, 25 points. It's not too shabby, right? Now, they have been getting it going over the last 10 games or so, but there's still been some massive consistency issues with this team, and that's a big reason why I'm still not fully sold on exactly where this team is. I still don't quite get what team this is, what type of product they're going to put on the ice game after game, because they have stretches where they look absolutely elite. The chemistry is there, 5-on-5, power play gets going. Then there's other games where they just get absolutely obliterated, and it boggles my mind. I can't tell who are the real LA Kings. Are they just this legit Stanley Cup contender that's ready to take a step forward and only getting better as the years go on, or is this team that's still mediocre, for lack of a better term, to be blunt? Because I don't know from game to game. They have stretches there, and I like a recent stretch the last 3-4 weeks. They were on the road trip there. They came into Ottawa, dominated that game, deserved to win, got the win. Against the Leafs, they got absolutely shelled. I believe they were shut out 6-0 or 7-0. Go to Montreal the next game. They hold on to a 3-2 win. They go up 3-0. Yes, they had to hold on there because Montreal scored the last 2 goals. But overall, they were the better team, and they outplayed their opponents, and they deserved to win that game. And then they go to Buffalo, get absolutely hammered once again. It's just... It's become this thing, overall these last this last couple of months, really, they just have not been able to find that consistent hockey. Now, over this last little stretch, they have started to pile up some wins more than not, winning a couple of shootout games. They've had some games where they've won convincingly, like against the Ducks not too long ago, but obviously Anaheim's not a very good team. Just overall, the Kings, I'm still waiting for them to really find that consistency. Maybe they'll start getting it going here again, but overall, I'm still not fully sold on this team, but like I said, can't argue with results. They are sitting pretty in that Pacific Division, and well, at the moment, they're our top 10 team in the NHL statistically, so I guess I'll give them kudos to them, but they still need to give me more. But they do make this list because I didn't have them making the playoffs, and as it stands right now, they clearly are going to make the playoffs, let's be honest. Coming in at number 4 here, of teams that I massively underrated, we got the Winnipeg Jets having an incredible season. Now, when it comes to the likes of the Washington Capitals and the Los Angeles Kings, although I didn't predict them to make the playoffs, I'm not overly surprised that they are currently occupying playoff spots, because we all knew those were solid teams coming off really good seasons last season. So to see them back in the playoffs isn't all that big of a shock. Whereas the Winnipeg Jets, on the other hand, I got to be honest, I did not see this coming. I really thought they were entering this retooling phase. Last year, if last year was any indication, it looked like they were moving in the wrong direction. And, despite Connor Hellebuck still being him, last year he was a little bit less of himself, but still was very solid, all things considered. I didn't think that they were going to be anywhere close to where they are now. I just thought, they were going to really start to shell a little bit. Defensively, they had some issues, but bringing Rick Bowness, it must have, something must have clicked there. They definitely improved that. And, offensively, they're still getting the results they've had. Now, there are middle of the pack offense, but that is the sacrifice they made when you bring in a guy like Rick Bowness, who's more of a defensive-minded coach, and we saw that with the Dallas Stars. And then you look at Connor Hellebuyck, who has a better structure in front of him, and as a result, he's having, once again, another Vezina caliber season. So it's a big reason why the Jets are back in the playoff race. And this is still, I feel it's still a very disrespected team. I think a lot of people still don't take this team very seriously. But with some of the storylines with this team, you haven't had Nick Ehlers for most of the season. Blake Wheeler has missed some time. And the production that we've gotten here, Kyle Connor leading the team in scoring, Pierre-Luc Dubois playing as the first-line center on that team with him, has been absolutely outstanding. That's been a dynamic duo for this Jets team, a big reason why they've been playing really well, and those guys have been really carrying the load offensively. Mark Scheifele leading the team in goals. His assists are a little bit down, which is a little bit shocking. I always viewed him as more of a playmaker, and a guy can hover around a point per game. And even though he's not far off, I guess, to an extent, I guess I expected a little bit more from him, but still very solid. But I think above all else, I think everyone can agree when I say this, the biggest surprise for this Jets team this season undoubtedly has been Josh Morrissey, the number one defenseman on the Jets. I don't think anyone saw this type of explosion offensively that he's put up this season. I mean, he's always been solid offensively, and defense is really not his thing. I don't think he's ever really been considered a great defender. And even this season, he hasn't been all that great, although you could argue he's been a little bit better than he was last year. Last year was an awful, terrible season for him defensively, but he still had I believe he had 37 points, 12 goals, really respectable offensive numbers. This season already shattered his career high, 43 points in 38 games. He's over a point per game. Josh Morrissey, absolutely insane the type of year he's having. A lot of people don't know how great he's been throughout the entire season. I mean, it seems like they have this trio going with, every time I check Jets games, it always is the same guys are producing. Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Josh Morrissey. I don't think there's a trio that combines more goals than those three this season. Josh Morrissey just has that offensive touch, making some tremendous plays, coming off his stick and are leading to goals and just create a scoring chances. Honestly, just a terrific season for him. No one saw this coming, and he's a legitimate Norris Trophy candidate. And if I had a vote and the season ended today, I think I would pick Josh Morrissey, honestly, as my Norris Trophy winner. When you get your key guy still scoring with your defense improving, you got a Norris caliber defenseman now, and Connor Hellebuyck playing at a Vezina caliber level, you got yourselves a very, very good team, one of the scariest teams in the NHL. You don't want to face this team come playoff time. Look out for the Winnipeg Jets. Coming in at number 3 here, we got to talk about what is potentially the biggest surprise in the NHL this season in the Seattle Kraken. I mean, you look at my stats where I had them ranked, it's pretty self-explanatory. I thought this team was going to be god-awful. I had them 27th. That's what's the 6th worst team in the league. The 6th worst team in the league, 27th. I had them under 500, obviously. This season, off to a really, really solid start. 12th in the NHL, 46 points through the first 37 games at 21-12-4. Coming off a very convincing win over the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are one of the best teams in the NHL. A team that it can just win in many ways. Now, the goaltending has not been good by any means. That issue has still been prevalent. Last year was really bad. Martin Jones has a winning record, but he hasn't had exactly the greatest season. Save percentage below 900 to be exact, 893 to be exact. But you got the offensive depth on this team. They're a top 5 offense, a team that couldn't buy a goal last year. One of the best offensive teams in the league. Big reason for that is the emergence of Matty Beniers having himself a heck of a rookie season, 28 points through 37 games. Future star in the making, clearly. Burakovsky, their leading scorer, has really cooled off the last 10 games or so, but 29 points through 37 games is still not too shabby for him. Everly's having himself a little bit of a bounce back season, 28 points. McCann doing about the same as he did last year. He's roughly on a 50-55 point pace. Probably going to put up around 30 to 35 goals if he keeps that pace up. Vince Dunn, their number one defenseman, a very solid season, on pace for probably 50 points. We'll see if he can sustain that. Obviously having that 3-point night against the Leafs the other night. So team as a whole just looking really, really solid. Getting other production from guys like Daniel Sprong, who's had a really underrated season. Wenberg's pretty good as well. One of the guys I've been a little bit disappointed with is Oliver Bjorkstrand, but you're playing him on the third line, with Yanni Gordon stuff. He's probably not going to produce a ton when he's playing on a bottom six, but I still think that there's more offense to be desired. But at the same time, you're getting just key contributions from your key guys there, your top guys, and this team's just looking like they're not going to get any worse. I legitimately think the Seattle Kraken are going to make the playoffs by the way things are going in the Pacific Division, especially. Like, I don't know what the Flames are. I don't know what the Oilers are at the moment. So Seattle, they could probably lock up a top 3 spot. We'll see what happens. But I've been, obviously very impressed. This team's doing better than literally anyone could have expected. No one saw this team even making the playoffs, let alone being one of the better teams in the Western Conference. Especially with the goaltending, I still think sustainability is going to be prevalent here. I don't know if they can maintain this success with how bad the goaltending has been, but it just needs to be decent. If Martin Jones, for example, can continue, finding ways to win, even if he can get his save percentage well above 900, then the team's definitely going to be in good shape, because the offense I still really like. They have a ton of pieces that can just put the puck in the net. You can have a hero any given night for this team, a team with a ton of depth. And what's shocking with the goaltending is that their defense, they're always a pretty good, even last year, they weren't even that bad defensively. So I think analytically, this is a great team. They just need a little bit better goaltending. And, if they can do that, they'll be a team that can make a lot of noise, and we'll see what happens in the playoffs. But Seattle Kraken definitely moving in the right direction. And it's great to see that this team, coming off a really tough inaugural season, bouncing back in a huge way in their second year. Coming in at number 2 here for the teams that I underestimated the most, I got the Dallas Stars, a team that I had just barely missing the playoffs in that Western Conference. But obviously, by the looks of it, this season, not only are they a playoff team, they are a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. As it currently stands, the Dallas Stars are a top 5 team in the NHL. Differential is second behind the first place team. We'll get to them later. Just overall, the stats across the board are very solid. 6th in goals for, 7th in goals against, 6th ranked power play, 4th ranked penalty kill. A team that just can kill you in multiple ways, just very solid. You need a ton of offense. You need 5 or 6 goals to win a game when one of the goalies is struggling. The Dallas Stars can do that. This season, they have taken another step forward offensively. Last year, they really struggled to score goals despite making the playoffs. This season, losing Rick Bowness, I think maybe it channeled something and unlocked some offensive abilities. Guys like Jamie Benn, most especially, dipping into the hot tub of youth, I guess. 36 points through 40 games, really having a massive resurgence of a career, to lack of a better term. Really playing really, really well. Tyler Seguin's also having a very solid season, producing at a much better rate, better clip than he did last year or any of his previous couple of seasons. We had some injury issues as well along the way, but those two in particular have given this team much better secondary scoring. Mason Marchment's been a pleasant surprise. I think to be expected, it wasn't going to play or produce at the same rate that he did with the Panthers, but still producing at a very solid rate, giving them some very solid two-way production on that second line. And of course, the top line, Joe Pavelski, not aging at all, father time not kicking in, still roughly a point per game player. Rope Hintz, underrated, one of the best two-way centers in the league, in my opinion, over a point per game. And he does everything on the ice. He's incredible defensively. I think no one gives him enough credit for that. And of course, the team led by Jason Robertson, a Hart Trophy candidate, in my opinion, 55 points in 40 games. Was on an absolute torrid pace to start the season, still producing at that clip, probably going to surpass 100 points. At least that's my hope if he stays healthy. And I know when it comes to the Norris Trophy, all the talks will be surrounding Erik Karlsson, Josh Morrissey, and deservingly so, Adam Fox as well. But I really think Miro Heiskanen needs to be in some more conversations. He's just been on a completely different level this season with the steps he's taken forward offensively. He definitely deserves that type of recognition. And then, of course, the goaltending. Jake Ottinger, coming off incredible, historically great playoffs for a young goaltender like him. And then coming into the regular season, he was on an amazing pace to start the season. He was playing really, really well. Looked like he picked up right where he left off from the playoffs. Then he hit a little bit of a wall, but still overall, solid record, goals against 2.39, 920 save percentage. That is, that's pretty much Vezina caliber goaltending. There's some guys who are having statistically better seasons, but for Jake Ottinger, still clearly a top 10 goaltender in the league, if not top 5. And, come playoff time, this team is dangerous, not because of him between the pipes, but because, if that offense can be sustained and come playoff time, they can still score at all different ways. And, for all 4 lines, guys like Wyatt Johnson stepping up and Ty Dellandrea too, guys I forgot to mention. This team is a huge threat to win a Stanley Cup with just the overall completeness of this team defensively and offensively. Look out for the Stars. This is a team that you could legitimately be seeing in the Stanley Cup Finals this year. To conclude this video, the team that I underestimated the most entering this season, without a doubt, the Boston Bruins. Not only are they making me look stupid by not picking them to make the playoffs, but they are doing it in the worst possible way. And this is the exact same thing that happened last season, because I remember entering last season, I didn't pick the Panthers to make the playoffs, and they ended up winning the President's Trophy. And the exact same thing has happened this season. Did not pick the Bruins to make the playoffs. In fact, I had them like pretty close to the bottom 10 of the league. I had them ranked 22nd, just barely over 500. I thought, with the injuries to Marchand and McAvoy to start the season, and just with the overall aging core of this group, I thought with the strength of the Eastern Conference just getting a lot more tougher, especially in the Atlantic Division, with Tampa, Toronto still being there. Still thought Florida was going to be in contention for a playoff spot, and obviously that's not the case. Detroit, Ottawa potentially taking a step forward. Forgot to mention Buffalo, but look at them, right? I thought this was the year that Boston was probably going to fall out of the playoffs, and I think that was a sexy pick. I was not the only one, on this train, but despite that, they are on pace to win the President's Trophy. It looks like they're going to clear everybody else by the looks of it. 30 wins through their first 38 games. First in the NHL, 64 points, the best differential, plus 60. All their stats are great. Goals against, the best in the league. Penalty kills, the best in the league. Only behind the Sabres, the second best offense. The 4th ranked power play as well. Just the team overall is a juggernaut. Just cohesively as a unit, just playing all 4 lines, all 3 defensive pairs, just playing as a team. And this is one of the best Bruins teams we've ever seen, really, over the last 20 years. Even with those Stanley Cup Championships teams, I don't think there's been a team ever this good. Obviously, it starts between their team defense and between the pipes, with Linus Ullmark playing at a Vezina caliber level. I mean, by the looks of it, he's probably on pace to win it. With his 939 save percentage, goals against under 2. He's only lost a total of 2 games, one of which in regulation and one beyond that. 21 wins to start the season. Absolutely amazing. And this is coming from, Jeremy Swayman as the backup, who has had his struggles this season, has not played really well. In a lot of games has just been a non-factor. So they've really gone to Linus Ullmark, relied on him to carry them between the pipes. And so far he's done a magnificent job. Not only has he, he's done his job, he's passed with flying colors. He's clearly the starter on this team. I didn't think that was going to be the case entering the season. I thought Swayman was going to take the reins as the official starter, but so far it's still Ullmark's net to lose. And just the production across the board, David Pastrnak, still one of the most elite players, the most elite goal scorers in the NHL. 27 goals, 52 points through 38 games. On pace to probably have the best season of his career. I know one year he almost got to 100 points if, the pandemic didn't hit and shut down the season prematurely, but looks like he may hit 100 points. We'll see if he can stay healthy again, like Robertson as well. Brad Marchand, since returning from injury, has not missed a beat, over a point per game, doing Brad Marchand-like things. Bergeron hovering around a point per game as well. Very solid, one of the best two-way centers in NHL history, let alone in the league currently. Taylor Hall having a solid season as well. Guys like Hampus Lindholm, who stepped up when Charlie McAvoy was absent and doing a fantastic job quarterbacking that top power play unit. McAvoy coming back near a point per game as well. Guy like Jake DeBrusk, who was having the best season of his career before that unfortunate injury to his fibula. He had a torn fibula now. Probably going to be missing about a month or so in the season, or maybe only be reevaluated. I don't know how it's going to work. So They're going to have to work around losing him and replacing him in the lineup, but we'll see what happens. But this is a dangerous Bruins team. Clearly the cup favorites in my mind. I mean, head over heels, the best team in the NHL. Clearly, this is a team that could just hurt you in multiple ways. Offensively, you need a tough shutdown play. You got your goaltending, you got solid defense. This is just a team that plays as a unit, plays as a team, and they are the best team in the league, looking to wreak havoc and finally, win that Stanley Cup. I mean, they did win one in 2011, but maybe this is their last chance under this core with guys like Bergeron and David Krejci as well. Forgot to mention him having a very good season, not getting any younger. So we'll see what happens with this Bruins team. They're probably going to add some pieces at the deadline and, really solidify themselves as going all in for this season, because who knows, maybe this is the last dance, quote unquote. Shout out to the documentary on Netflix, the Chicago Bulls there. Just loving what I'm seeing from the Bruins this season. And if there's any season for this team to win the Stanley Cup, it has to be this season, because who knows what's going to happen down the road. But yeah, Boston is a huge threat. And you know what? If it were up to me, if the season ended today, I think I would sway towards the Bruins winning the cup, just the way they're playing. It just doesn't look like anyone really stands a chance. They're in the league in their own right now. That's how great they've been. So with that is going to wrap up this video of me discussing some NHL teams that I grossly underrated entering this season. Be sure to drop a like on this video, comment down below your thoughts and your discussions. Give me all your opinions in the comments and tell me, do you believe in these teams? Do you think that all these teams have legitimate shots at winning the Stanley Cup this season? Were you on the same page as me? Did you underrate them, or are they doing mainly more or less what you guys expected them to? Let me know again in the comments. If you enjoy watching these type of videos where I just give you guys some hockey takes or discuss all things NHL, please leave a like on this video, drop a comment down in the comment section, whatever, discuss, do what you guys want to do. I'm open to discussion. If you guys have any questions or you guys want to just talk to me about some of my opinions, that is all good. I love that stuff. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I will talk to you in the next one. I'll see you guys later.